Promotional consideration brought to you by...
Hi there, I'm Brian Finlay. I've been working in the animation industry for over 20 years. Come join me as we explore the process of creating an animated cartoon. We'll meet some amazing people along the way, right here on Drawn to It, Behind the Screens. Hi there, welcome back to Drawn to It, Behind the Screens. Today, we're going to get to see our finished film, A Good Day to Draw. We're also going to talk a little bit about compositing. Have you ever achieved something in your life that was so special and then thought back on a moment in time that if it hadn't happened, that special thing wouldn't have happened? When I was a kid, I dreamt of growing up to animate for Disney. I grew up in this trailer park right in back of me, and I had ADHD so bad I was failing out of high school. In fact, the only thing I got 100% on was daydreaming. Somehow, I was lucky enough to get through all of that and accomplish my dream of animating for Disney. But I wouldn't have been so driven if it weren't for my junior high art teacher, Bonny Hill. I'll never forget the day she wheeled in the big boxy TV, held up the VHS tape and said, "Class, today we're gonna watch an animated film." She used it as a teaching tool, and that animated film was Don Bluth's The Land Before Time. In fact, recently, I had the chance to catch up with Bonny Hill and thank her face to face for helping to steer me down my path as an animator. Thank you for being on the show. This is big for me because you were probably the most inspirational art teacher I ever had in junior high. And you are definitely responsible for me going into animation as a career. The whole reason we're here is I would like to know from your words, what made you use animation as a teaching tool back in grade 7 when you wheeled that big old box TV and VCR into the classroom and you showed us The Land Before Time. But after that, you walked us through the color theory of it, the perspective, and so many things. It was more than just you trying to get a break from us. You used it as a tool. What made you use animation as a tool?
Well, first of all, I remember how I found out about Land Before Time, and I thought I could use this to teach everything to do with color theory, everything to do with principles of design, everything to do with elements of art, everything, really.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, young people love animation. They love, as you know, they love cartoons, they love comic books, they love graphic novels. And I thought, why use something like abstract expressionism or, you know, Renaissance painting to teach all of those things that you can teach with animation? So, because the kids love it and it's more accessible, they respond to it.
Yeah. And it made a big difference. I mean, up until that point, art class was full of all kinds of different things, carving linoleum, making prints with potatoes, and just stuff that, because I had ADHD but didn't know it at the time, I just spaced out. And I had already connected with animation as like it was my go-to thing.
Right.
After school, watch cartoons. Before school, watch cartoons. During school, think about cartoons.
Yeah.
Right? And you came in and showed us that, and everything that had been taught to me, even things in your class up until that point, like group of 7 stuff.
Right.
None of it made sense until that. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. This color is red because it's foreshadowing this scene that's coming up. It's making us feel, oh, I get it.
I would ask the kids ahead of time, like, okay, think about something like Little Mermaid. What do you think in terms of color? And they think, well, her hair's reddish and her tail's greenish. And then I say, okay, so look for that, not just on her, but look for that throughout the whole film. Or look through the use of orange and blue in Aladdin, or yellow and purple in Lion King. And it's so clear when they're looking for it, but they don't notice it until you show it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you're shown, it's like when you learn a brand new word,
Yeah.
you hear it
Oh,
like every day for 2 weeks.
exactly.
Afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
No, it had that impact on me. And I remember going home and just being like, yeah, now I'm going to be an artist. And I'm going to do it, and I can do it because I understand it. It was fantastic.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's so nice to hear.
And today, do you still find value in animation, or has CGI sort of drifted away from where your roots are as a traditional artist?
Oh, absolutely. I really value and respect animation like never before. I mean, it's advanced so much. You know, I went home and watched the cartoons too when I was a kid, but it was Fred Flintstone with that same background going around and around and around. And it was, I mean, things have advanced so much since then. And to me, it's everything. Like it's so powerful as a genre. It really, really is. It has everything.
What blows me away now is we have in some high schools across Canada and the US, they have art teachers who are teaching animation. And I just feel like I missed the boat by just that much, you know? But no, that's great. I love the opportunity to sit here and thank you after all of these years. I've had a career that is, you know, I've accomplished things I never thought somebody from a trailer park in New Brunswick would get to do. And, you know, I owe the desire to do it to you because of that animated film you showed us. So, you know, thank you. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you. I mean, very often I hear from students, you know, years later.
Yeah.
And quite often I just lose track of people, but sometimes I run into someone later on in life like you.
Yeah.
And it's such a thrill to see that that you remember things from school and that you've found your little place in the art world. It makes me so happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie, for sitting with us and reminiscing about the old days. It's really easy to forget that all the moments in the past have gotten you to where you are now. The achievements, the failures, everything together has gotten you to exactly where you are. So if you find yourself in a position of celebration because you've achieved a great thing, remember, you wouldn't have gotten there if a certain thing hadn't happened in the past. When a production team eventually reaches the finished product, the final film, believe me, they look back on the journey and they feel all kinds of emotions. They feel sad, they feel relieved, they feel a big sense of accomplishment. So together we've explored the process of creating a story. We've created character designs, we've taken our script, we've recorded the dialogue, and we've gone into our storyboard stage and we figured out how to make our animatic. We've done our rough animation, our cleanup. Now it's time for the final hurrah, the compositing. And again, a process that used to require a multi-plane camera that was the size of a room, maybe even a couple stories high, depending how many layers they needed in there. That and all the technicians required to operate the camera, all of that has been condensed down into a computer and one artist. Bit by bit, the compositor takes every piece of finished artwork and puts final touches on it. They will adjust color, they will add special effects digitally, and they will manipulate the 3D virtual camera so that camera moves look as smooth as butter. You know, it's really remarkable when you look at the scribbles and the rough sketches of the storyboard phase and you see the evolution into the finished painted film. Creating an animated project, whether it's small or large, it's the hand-drawn equivalent of emptying a swimming pool with a spoon. all of the art direction implied in our storyboards and our animatic has now been interpreted by background design artists, rough animators, ink and painters, the whole gamma spectrum of the animation pipeline to get to this point where we have final painted finished artwork. If you remember, we decided to skip the background design stage because of time and budget, and we opted to make our storyboard background super heavy on detail to help the background painter. Now the background painter was able to take our storyboard panels, blow them up, and paint with them as the reference. And the background painters come up with lush, gorgeous sceneries of the wilderness and where Barry the bear is living, and his whole environment is just gorgeous. So everything from the lighting to the textures of the trees and the leaves, I just love what has been created. So when final artwork starts trickling into the compositors, they start to get very, very excited, because just like a chef with the world's best ingredients in front of them, they are able to take all of those art assets and combine them to create the final visual. And that's where they really shine. Each scene is rebuilt in terms of layers from, think of it this way, from the camera lens to me, I put my hand close, that's foreground. I put it way back here, that's background. Everything in the middle is midground. And this is what compositors think about when they're putting the scene together. Through cheats in the software, they can make a 2D static image feel three-dimensional. Our camera moves can make things parallax, so you can have moving foreground, background elements during sweeping camera moves, just like our opening shot. So let's take a moment right now and enjoy the fruit of our labor and watch in its entirety A Good Day to Draw, the animated short we've used to help walk you through each animation stage. Here we go.
Peoples have pencils. A bear! Shoot! Get out of here! Leave my food alone!
Pretty cool, right? And we couldn't have done any of that without Curtis Ryu and his whole team at Stellar Boar Productions. I bow. Now, let's take a moment and watch a few scenes side by side from the animatic versus the final composited scene. What a difference it makes.
Peoples have pencils. A bear!
Thank you very much to all of you out there for coming on this journey with me. I hope Drawn to It Behind the Screens has given you a really good idea of the 2D animation production process. It's actually not too different from the 3D animation production process, but you know what? That's another version of Drawn to It Behind the Screens. We'll see you next time.